Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be the best restaurants in Edinburgh. Last week I was lucky enough to be sent to Edinburgh for work and I took this as an opportunity to eat and drink my way around the city. And I ate so well. I went to some places that I have been to before that I knew were tried and tested that I absolutely loved, and I also discovered some brand new places that I hadn't been to before. And I thought instead of vlogging my trip like the last time, just like a daily vlog, I thought I would make a dedicated video to the best restaurants in Edinburgh to share with you. So just in case you guys might visit in the future and you want to try some of these amazing restaurants, I thought I would compile a nice list. I wrote loads of notes while I was away as well, so hopefully this is helpful to you, but let's dive straight in. So the first place I visited was Seven Neighbourhood Cafe. Seven Neighbourhood Cafe is located on Home Street, which is relatively central. It's quite close to the castle. If you just come off the castle and walk about 10 minutes, you'll find it there. And it's this really cute pink cafe with fairy lights in the window, and you can tell it just looks quite cute even though it was a bit of a miserable day when I was visiting. It looked really appealing. It had a lot of curb appeal, and I'd also looked online, looked at the restaurants. I really wanted avocado on toast, so I went inside and you can tell it's really cute, decorated with like false plants and artwork. I think it's like local art is up on the wall, and it's also available to buy, which I think is quite a cute like community touch. They brought me a jug of water with a mint sprig in because I didn't fancy a coffee or a drink, so I just drank water, and I ordered the avocado on toast with 2 fried eggs and bacon as an addition. I noticed on the menu that the prices are like incredibly modest. Most of the options were about a tenner. Some were a little bit more, some were a little bit less, but you can expect to spend £10 to £20 per person if you're eating and drinking. So really good value, I thought. The food was absolutely delicious, and just looking around at some of the other diners, you could tell it was people who were sort of on their lunch breaks. It felt like it was full of locals, and I just had a really nice time here. I thought the food was delicious. I was full for ages. It was 2 quite large slices of toast with all the toppings, and when I went back to work for the afternoon I was so satisfied. So that was a really good find. The next place was Fava, which is a Greek restaurant, and it's located on Morrison Street, Edinburgh, which is a bit more in the financial district. That's where my office was based, so it's quite handy for me. It was quite close to where I was. It's open 7 days a week, and the reason I found this place was because some of the lawyers I was working for up in Edinburgh, they had booked like a client dinner for that week, so I thought, well, if it's good enough for the lawyers, it's good enough for me. So I booked myself in as well. It was really popular. It was really busy considering this was a Monday night. There were lots of people chatting. There were people, I think there were other people on like business dinners, but there was also couples and groups of friends. The decor inside was gorgeous. There was loads of like beautiful lampshades, loads of lights, loads of plants, and I really liked the marble tables. It kind of made you feel like you were in Greece. It was also really nice and warm in there, even though it was quite like a cold Edinburgh March evening. I ordered the cleftico, which was a whole leg of lamb in this gorgeous like lemony sauce with rice, or I could have had it with potatoes. This was only £22.95 for the main course, and because I was in and out, they didn't apply a service charge, but I think on the menu it did say that they apply like a discretionary service charge, which is absolutely fine. I just drank water, but there was so much meat on this cleftico, I couldn't believe it, and it was so tasty and so tender, and it literally just fell apart. I think if I went next time, I would definitely try the meze, because the menu was really quite extensive and it had loads of options for hot and cold mezes, vegan, vegetarian options. There was like stuffed vine leaves and all the things you can kind of expect to see on a traditional Greek menu. I would definitely visit again, and I would love to spend more time there and go with people to chat to be able to spend a bit more time and try all of the different menu options. And Fava Greek restaurant is rated 4.6 stars out of 5 on Google. Other users report that you would expect to spend around £20 to £30 per person. The next morning I really wanted to go and find the best matcha in Edinburgh. I love a matcha down in Bristol, and I really fancied one, so I went googling and I found a coffee shop called Meh with a full stop, which I thought was quite funny, and it's like this yellow coffee shop from the outside. It's in a gorgeous area. I'm not exactly sure what the area is called, but it is on Drumshew Place. It's closed on Mondays, but it's open all the way through the rest of the week. And it's a cozy coffee shop with sandwiches, pastries, and it does say that it does the best matcha in Edinburgh. It's in the most gorgeous area and it's just around the corner from the castle, so it's great to grab a coffee, take it for a little stroll, or if you wanted to sit inside, there were people sat. There was kind of limited seating. There was maybe about 5 tables, one of them was in the window, and there was like a family with their kids sat in the window, so that was quite cute. There was kind of a bit more of a limited selection of sandwiches, but I think that's based on the time of day I went to pay them a visit. But the coffee was really, really good. It was slightly more expensive than I would expect to have paid. I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was about a £5. I think it was like £4.95 for my matcha, and it was just a regular size, but it tasted really nice. I did add some vanilla syrup, and I took that with me for a walk to go and have a look at the castle. It's in just such a good location, so perfect to do a little bit of exploring once you've got your coffee. And Met Coffee is rated 4.9 stars out of 5 on Google, and other users report that you would expect to spend about £1 to £10 per person. Next, I went to L'Artigiano, which is a repeat offence for me. I went to L'Artigiano when I visited Edinburgh last time, and I just knew it was so nice, which is why I went for the second time. Honestly, it's the most gorgeous restaurant. It's like a navy blue building from the outside, and it's in kind of an unassuming area. It's kind of out the way a little bit from the city centre. It's not far, but it's just slightly off a side street from the main city centre, and it doesn't look like that much, and it doesn't look like an area that's full of other restaurants, so it's kind of tucked away on its own, but it's so good, honestly. It's rated 4.6 stars out of 5 on Google, and other users report spending £10 to £20 per person, and it's open 7 days a week from 12 until 10 p.m. and honestly, it is the best Italian food I've ever eaten outside of Italy, and I've been to Italy 3 times, and every single time I go, I am obsessed with the food. I love Italian food. It's my favorite. The portions are absolutely huge and so filling. The waiters are really friendly. They were joking with me. They could see I was there by myself. I don't mind eating alone, but I think they wanted to make sure that I wasn't feeling lonely, so they kept coming over and having a chat with me, asking what I was doing in Edinburgh. Really friendly guys. And I had the meatballs last time, which I ordered again this time, and these are just so delicious. They're so meaty, and you can tell it's cooked fresh because they're literally like steaming when they come out, and you can actually hear the guys cooking in the kitchen as you're sitting in the restaurant. And I also went for the carbonara because I am a basic white girl, and that is the only thing I know how to eat or order in an Italian restaurant, but it is just my favorite. And the portion was unbelievable. It was the size of my head, and considering I'd already eaten the meatballs, I was already kind of full, but it just tasted so good. Really generous on the guanciale or the pancetta. I don't know what they use in this one, but it was a proper carbonara. They didn't use cream. Honestly, the portion was towering on the plate, but so delicious. I felt really guilty because I couldn't finish it because I was so full, and they did offer me a takeaway box, which I think is really nice of them, but because I was staying in a hotel, I didn't have access to a microwave, which honestly, microwave carbonara probably isn't that nice anyway. But this was such a tasty meal, and it didn't cost me a fortune at all. I did have a glass of wine, and my bill came to about £28, and that was with a starter, a main course, and a glass of wine, so I think that is an absolute bargain. The next day I visited Coro, the chocolate cafe, which I did in fact find it on Instagram because it did in fact go viral. This cafe is rated 4.2 stars out of 5 on Google, and I think that's tight. I think it should be rated higher because I think it's great. Again, it looks quite unassuming, and it's just on top of a cost cutter shop. Maybe people would walk past it not realising that there's a cute cafe upstairs. It is located on Frederick Street, which is just off Princes Street, which is the main shopping high street sort of area. It's just off from the castle, so if you're walking around doing some sightseeing, chances are you're going to be fairly close to it to pop in for a coffee or a hot chocolate and some cake. So the cake went viral. It popped up on my Instagram, probably because the algorithm knew I was in Edinburgh somehow, but I thought this cake looked to die for. And looking at the menu, they do some savoury options, but I definitely get the feeling it's more of a waffles, pancakes, sweet desserts type place. The inside of the cafe kind of looks a bit like a diner, so it's kind of unassuming. Like, they've made an effort with the decor. They've got some decals on the walls and they've gone with like a brown colour scheme to represent like the chocolate, but it's kind of unassuming. It doesn't look like all that, but honestly, when this cake turned up, I couldn't believe it. They were super friendly and the restaurant was playing retro music, which I thought was quite a cute touch, but it also added to that diner feel. But yes, I sat down and I didn't have a drink because I thought, oh, there's no way I can have like a hot, heavy, milky drink on top of this cake I'm about to order. And I ordered the Death by Chocolate cake, which was £8.99, and it came with whipped cream, and it was also gluten-free, which I think is really handy to know. It was absolutely unbelievable. It was smothered in like melted chocolate, and it had white milk and dark chocolate shavings on top. And I was texting Kyle as I was eating it, and I was uploading furiously to my Instagram story because it was just so Insta-worthy. And I was saying to Kyle that I felt like Bruce Bogtrotter trying to finish this cake. I think if I went back, I would definitely consider this to be a two-man job, because I had to go back to work for the afternoon and I felt like I was in a chocolate coma. It was so rich, it was so gooey and decadent and heavy. It was heavy. It made me feel a bit sick in the afternoon. So bear that in mind. I don't normally have that much of a sweet tooth, but I just couldn't not eat this cake. I couldn't not go and try it. So that's why I had it. But please be aware, chocolate comas are a real thing. The next stop on my trip was Maison Bleue, which is a restaurant on Victoria Street, which is the most photographed street in Edinburgh. So it's in a really touristy area. Chances are you've probably seen photos of Victoria Street on Pinterest. You've probably seen Maison Bleue because it's this gorgeous bright blue building. You can't miss it. And it's just about a quarter of the way up Victoria Street. This is primarily a French-inspired restaurant, but they also do Scottish food, and they also did curries. So there was kind of like an Asian influence going on as well on the menu. But they did an early dinner set menu special, and it was £25 for a starter and a main course, and I think that's an absolute bargain. What I was doing was going directly from the office straight out for dinner, so to dine before 6:30 was really easy for me. I was hungry from working all day and it just worked really well for me. So definitely bear that in mind if you're visiting. You can get some really amazing deals if you do dine a little bit earlier in the evening. So I went for the camembert starter, which came in a puff pastry, absolutely gorgeous. And then the main course, I went for the ox cheeks, and it came with like pureed potatoes and carrots, and it was in a mushroom red wine sauce. It was so rich, so delicious. I loved where they sat me in the restaurant as well. I was sat right in the corner so I could see everyone else eating. It was quite quiet when I went, which is quite nice because I can imagine it's quite a busy and popular restaurant, especially with tourists, just based on where it's located. I really like the decor inside the restaurant as well. It was dark, even though it was still light outside. The restaurant was dark, and it had some neon lights, and it had a bit of a French vibe. The neon lights kind of reminded me of like Moulin Rouge vibes. All the tables were candlelit, which was quite romantic, but please bear in mind the toilets were up about 99 flights of stairs up a spiral staircase, so just be aware. And as I say, a lot of the other people in the restaurant were tourists, but so was I, so yeah. And then my ox cheeks came, and yeah, just absolutely divine. Again, such a rich sauce. I really tried to take my time eating and enjoying, just because the vibe of the restaurant was just so nice. I was really enjoying myself being sat there. I was having a glass of wine and just sitting watching the world go by on Victoria Street, just looking out the window, minding my own business. This restaurant is rated 4.3 stars out of 5 on Google. It is open 7 days a week, which makes sense because it's probably in the most touristy area that you'll find yourself in. The next day I wanted to go back to one of my old favourites, which is Hula Juice Bar, and they are a cafe and they do brunch. They do breakfasty, brunchy, lunchy food, and I did go there last time and I had the most divine eggs benedict. This time I wanted to try something different, and it was a little bit more towards lunchtime, so I decided that I wanted a halloumi wrap. Hula Juice Bar in Fountain Bridge is located at 94A Fountain Bridge, which is more towards the financial district, but they do have one on Victoria Street, which is where I was at Maison Bleue. I believe they have another location in the city somewhere, but I didn't find out where that one was. I didn't walk past it. They do vegan dishes, they've got Wi-Fi, they do high chairs, so that's nice and handy, and you can expect to spend between £10 and £20 if you're having a drink and some food. It's almost got a California, Hawaii beach vibe, and I decided that instead of sitting in like I did last time, I wanted to walk it down to the water, which is just over from where the Fountain Bridge restaurant is, and I thought it was such a nice sunny day, I'm gonna sit in the sun and I'm gonna have my halloumi wrap. But when I opened the box, horror struck, because they'd given me the wrong order and it looked lush. What they'd given me was almost like a breakfast hash. It was potatoes with poached eggs on top, with spices and tomatoes, and it looked gorgeous, but I just didn't have any cutlery. I would have eaten it, but I thought, no, it's only back over the road, so I'm gonna take it back and get my halloumi wrap that I asked for, because I was trying to be a little bit healthier, because I'd just eaten that chocolate cake the day before. So I went back and got my halloumi wrap. They were really apologetic and, bless them, offered me a free drink to make up for the inconvenience, and I said no, don't worry about it. And then I took my halloumi wrap back towards the office, and it was really, really good. It was really generous on the halloumi. The wrap was a tiny bit smaller than I was hungry for, but it tasted really, really good. And then it also had like a sweet chili sauce, it had spinach in there, and there was like a coleslaw, and it had been put on like a press, so it was all pressed down nicely, so it stayed together a lot more nice, which is handy, because sometimes when you eat wraps, you know how they just like absolutely disintegrate and they go all down your clothes. Luckily I was wearing like dark clothes that day, but my white scarf was in peril. So I took this back towards my office and I just sat down on a bench and I ate it. It was such a nice sunny day that day. I'm disappointed that I didn't get the right food the first time, but they more than made up for it. They couldn't have done any more, it was just a mistake. And when I got the food, it was so delicious, and I'm really glad that I went back to visit them at Hula Juice Bar, because it's really fresh and it's also a really good option to get something as a takeaway rather than just your standard Greggs or McDonald's. I quite like going somewhere where you can get something a little bit different to what you can get back home. And my wrap cost me £11.50, which I think is absolutely fine, absolutely respectable cost for a lunch, and I was quite full up afterwards, so I was happy with that. And then for dinner on the final night, I am so pleased that I waited until the final night to go here. It wasn't intentional, but I had booked up restaurants before I left to go to Edinburgh, and it wasn't until I arrived in Edinburgh I realised I needed to find somewhere to eat on my last night, which was the Thursday evening, and I booked to go to Howies, which is also on Victoria Street, so back in that really touristy popular area. This restaurant is like a traditional Scottish restaurant. It's rated 4.4 stars out of 5 on Google, and other people report spending between £20 and £30 each when they go to dine here. They do have vegetarian dishes and they have a kids menu as well, and it's just super cozy inside. It's got a gorgeous vibe, and the wait staff were really friendly and they offered to take your coat. I was literally the first one waiting at the door when I got there, which was a bit embarrassing, but it was fine. They were super friendly. They didn't make me feel like I was dining on my own. They also do an early dinner set menu, which is £23.95, and you can choose a starter and a main, or a main and a dessert. I had the pigeon to start, and this is the first time I've ever tried pigeon. I was a little bit apprehensive, but oh my god, if you're in Edinburgh, I implore you to try pigeon. I wouldn't say I'm like that adventurous when it comes to food, but pigeon was honestly, it's the steak of the bird world. It was super moist, and I think I got like 2 quite large slices of pigeon breast, and it came with like half a whole roast red onion, which was so nice. Came with a really lovely mushroom ketchup and these like parsnip crisps. So delicious. And then I also thought, well, I'm in Scotland, so who would I be if I didn't order Scottish salmon? I eat salmon down in England, but it, you know, I get it from Aldi. It's probably never gonna be as good as this wild caught fresh Scottish salmon that had probably been pulled out of a loch the morning of. And honestly, this piece of salmon came and it was like a door wedge. It was humongous and it was so meaty, and it came with this gorgeous like crispy kale and pureed butternut squash possibly, or sweet potato, like an orangey. Oh my god, it was just so good, and served so hot. I was sat sort of alongside the kitchen, so I could peek my head over and I could see the chefs cooking the food all fresh to order, which I really appreciate. I love being sat near the kitchen, so you know you can't hear microwaves pinging off or anything like that. And because I was having just such a good time, I did come for the set menu, but by the time I'd finished my starter and my main course, I was just enjoying myself so much that I decided to stay a little bit longer and order myself a cheese board. And this cheese board was completely just Scottish cheese, so there was like a Scottish blue cheese and there was like a hard cheese. I'm not exactly sure, I should look at the menu really, but that is available online if you want to have a look. And it also came with grapes, and it came with some chutney and some Scottish oatcakes, which were so delicious. So this obviously wasn't part of the set menu. I think it was an extra maybe £14, which I was really happy to pay because I was having such a nice time. Again, probably just based on its location, it was really popular with the tourists in the area, which I don't mind at all. Again, as I say, I'm a tourist, and I think the wait staff and the restaurant are really aware of that, so they take quite a lot of time explaining the menu to you. They compliment your choices, which I think is a really good idea, and they're also there to help make recommendations. There was a couple sat opposite me and they weren't really sure what they were having. I think they were American, and they got some really good advice, and I could hear the wait staff like helping them, recommending things. Oh, is this your first time in Scotland? I would recommend this. Have you tried haggis before? I would recommend getting haggis as a starter rather than a main because it might not be to everyone's taste. So I thought that was really nice of them, really good of them. So the set menu was £23.95, and then there is a service charge on top, which brought it up to about £28, and then I had my additional dessert, which, you know, I'm gonna cop that. I take responsibility for that. So those are my top picks for restaurants in Edinburgh, and my absolute favourite picks for breakfast or brunch and dinner in the evenings. I would definitely recommend booking a table because as I was quite early arriving, the restaurant seemed quite quiet when I first arrived, but as the evening went on and as I was sat there for about 45 minutes to an hour, the restaurant's definitely filled up. So if you can, book a table ahead to avoid disappointment, because especially in the more touristy areas, people will have done their full day sightseeing, they'll feel tired, and they will just think, oh, okay, we'll go to the first restaurant we see, which are the ones more central. I think for places like L'Artigiano or Fava, you could probably get away with walking in, but I wouldn't bank on it because, again, they were quite busy when I was sat there, and I was only sat by myself. I wasn't taking up much room, but the rest of the tables were pretty full. But I had such an amazing time exploring the city and eating at some of the most delicious restaurants I could ever have imagined. There's just something so nice about going out for dinner by yourself as well, isn't there? I know some people feel a bit awkward doing it, but honestly, for me, it's just my favourite thing in the world because you don't have to think about where anyone else wants to eat or where anyone else wants to go. You can just go exactly where you want, and you can sit there and mind your own business and people watch and have a glass of wine and just eat some fantastic food. If any of you guys have been to Edinburgh in the past and you think you have a good restaurant recommendation, please do leave it down below because I will probably get to go up again and I would love to try more restaurants next time. Honestly, being a foodie is such a curse, but also such a privilege, because it means that when I go away, it's just like the #1 thing I'm looking for. I physically will not go away if I think the food is going to be rubbish. That's why I've been to Italy 3 times, and it's why I refuse to eat the pickled herring in Denmark. But I love Scottish food, and I just love Scotland as a whole. I think, like, on top of the food, just as a side note, the architecture is so gorgeous. The people are really friendly. They do say that Northerners are a lot more friendly. I think that extends to the Scots as well. I found them so lovely. The waiters and waitresses, especially because I was eating alone, I think they kind of felt like they should give me a little bit more attention, which was super sweet, but completely not necessary because I love eating by myself. But yes, I hope you found this video interesting and helpful and useful, and please do let me know if any of you have been to these restaurants before or if you are adding them to your list for your next trip up to Edinburgh. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye!